Welcome to Seven Skills for the Future podcast. I'm Emma Sue Prince and I'm joined by my producer James.
Hi Emma Sue, hello everyone.
This podcast is all about putting you into the driving seat of your own life, and you will be so much happier and live a life of purpose and meaning just by using these 7 skills. So in this series so far, I've been talking about the importance of having a great morning routine. I've been telling you about how my dog taught me about empathy. And there's been a great interview with Thomas Cox from the Corinthia London, where I've been enthusing about cream teas and excellence.
So what's the theme of today's episode?
So in this episode, James, I want to return to adaptability, the first skill in the book, and why the fastest way we can build our ability to be adaptable is to stretch our comfort zone. I want to look at, why do we resist change so much, and how can we help ourselves be more open to change? How can we see it as an opportunity to embrace uncertainty and grow and learn and get happier?
Why is adaptability so important?
Adaptability is vital because we are living in an absolutely unprecedented period of change and rate of change. So there's a lot of uncertainty and no one has the answers when it comes to our environment, the economic situation, what's going on around us. So the ability to be able to bounce back and reassess and adapt is the top one. But when change is imposed from the outside, whether it's through world and economic events or whether it's through something personal, or even just something new and unexpected, it creates stress. That stress means that we actually become less adaptable and flexible, and we start to actually exhibit behaviours that are really counterproductive to being effective in that kind of situation. We may feel we have no control over these stress factors, but we do. So managing your stress is key for becoming more adaptable, understanding what triggers stress and having self-care measures in place, and just having ways that we can build that adaptability muscle every day so that we become much better at handling change.
So why do you think we resist change so much?
Well, it comes back to what I was saying about change being imposed from the outside. We really don't like that. And so we naturally resist it, sometimes automatically. And when you add uncertainty to the mix, it just makes it worse. So that little combination of change coming from the outside and high uncertainty really triggers a lot of stress. So psychologists will differentiate between a risk situation where you clearly understand and know what your options are and you know the probability of certain things happening or not happening, and uncertainty where you don't know any of these things. So the world is much scarier in the land of uncertainty. I didn't say this. This was said by a behavioural economics researcher at Warwick Business School. That explains a lot as to why we are so resistant when it comes to any kind of change.
So I guess what we're really talking about here are comfort zones and how we like to stay in them.
Oh, yes, we love to stay in them. So we will naturally resist anything that requires us to step out of that comfort zone. But the important thing to remember here is that nothing actually ever happens in the comfort zone. Everything is easy and nothing risky ever happens, and nothing actually exciting happens there either. So the problem there is that if we stay in the comfort zone and never step out of it, we will just get worse at being able to adapt. So any kind of change or anything that requires us to be away from that comfort zone will feel very, very threatening. So what we need to be able to do is have a conscious effort, and regardless of how open you are to change, but a conscious effort to try and step a little outside that comfort zone. So our comfort zones are as, they're as small or as big as we make them. And we make the comfort zone a bit bigger by just engaging in more activities and experiences that lie a bit outside of it. So it's not about sort of going and doing something that really scares you. So sometimes what you'll see, I think there's a quote that says, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. And actually, I don't agree with that, because I think that is quite scary. I think being adaptable is just about getting yourself more into the stretch zone. So the stretch zone is important because you just have that little additional challenge. If you go too far in the direction of panic zone, that's not a good place to be, as the name might suggest. So, learning and growth can't ever happen there because we're so far out of the comfort zone that we find ourselves in a sort of fight or flight mode. The reason the comfort zone is so powerful for strengthening adaptability is because it's all about getting into stretch zone. It's all about widening that comfort zone so it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And that means we have to all our lives look for opportunities to try out new things, to try out different things, and then we become better at coping well with change. And it really does strengthen our ability to be adaptable.
So how can we be more open to change?
I think we can try to cultivate an attitude of seeing change as an opportunity rather than something that's really scary. So, you need to kind of think of that quite consciously, because we do react quite instantly towards any kind of change. And I think to kind of get better at just seeing it as an opportunity for growth, an opportunity for learning, the quickest way to be more open to change is to get ourselves into that stretch zone. It's the best place to be, and it's the most effective way to increase your ability to be adaptable. So it's important to spend time there. It doesn't mean that you don't stay in your comfort zone, because the comfort zone is fine. It's just not fine to be stuck there. And it's very easy to stay there because it feels good. So being open to change is about building adaptability incrementally and understanding how resistant we are. So a great example is, next time you take part in a group event of any kind, whether it's a class or a choir, anything where you're in a group, try sitting in a different seat. It'll feel uncomfortable. It really will. Next time you go out to dinner, try different food. Say yes rather than no. So the initial reaction to anything which is about change is going to be no. And to recognize that when it comes, and to kind of rise above it and come at it with a yes. And just try that and see what happens. And that actually really, really helps with being more open to changes.
So I'm really curious about this idea of the stretch zone. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes. So the stretch zone is the place where, as I said, where learning and growth happens. So they're going to be things that will challenge you, that will seem a little bit hard, but not impossible. So let's say, for example, you're asked to take on a new project, and that project's going to stretch your skills. Or let's say you're asked to give a presentation at short notice, or perhaps you're asked to prepare for a meeting that you don't really want to go to. So these are all situations where your natural response would be no, to avoid it, to fear it maybe, or to feel annoyed by it. So that's an example of stretch. Arguably, of course, there could be people where the idea of giving a presentation would put them straight into panic zone. So, it'll be different for everybody, but it should be a situation which is slightly hard and a slight challenge, but something that you can definitely do. Those sorts of events, or any kind of change or uncertainty at work that might be happening for you, to try and see this as an opportunity to practice becoming more adaptable. And there are lots of things that will help you do this, lots of things that will help you get into stretch zone more. Definitely the other skills will help you. So being proactive and being optimistic will be very influential on your ability to be adaptable. So it's important to strengthen all 7. So, I know we're looking at adaptability, but we can't look at these skills in isolation. They all overlap with each other. And with adaptability, I would say that most of the time, it's about adopting a lovely yes attitude, so getting yourself into stretch zone and working out strategies for how you will shine in those situations. If I just go back to those 3 examples I gave, so the new project that's going to stretch your skills, where you sort of think, oh my gosh, I'm not sure if I can do that. Can I do that? The very first thing is saying yes to it, cultivating that ability to say yes to things that perhaps make you feel a bit uncomfortable, and then commit to that project, and then start taking action. So, learning everything you can, learn the skills you might need, relax, be aware when your body tenses up, because when we go into stretch, we sometimes will have a physical response as well. It's really natural. Allow yourself to get excited about the new challenge, because we do like a challenge. Our brains are hardwired to enjoy challenges. So it's actually quite healthy to be in the stretch zone. But in that particular situation with a new project, it's about really embracing the skills that you'll develop, listing the ways that you're going to grow from this, trusting yourself that you can rise to the challenge. And you will. I mean, my own example is of podcasting. I'd never done a podcast before doing this with the book. And certainly at the beginning of it, I did have all these sort of reactions and responses to it. And of course, what happens is when you start building strategies, your comfort zone becomes wider, it becomes bigger. So there are lots of things about podcasting where I would say, I've gone into my comfort zone, but there are still things that put me into stretch zone. Giving a presentation at short notice, same kind of thing. Say yes, research the topic, tap into who the audience is and what they might be expecting. And, presentations certainly do put most people into stretch. I know it also puts some people into panic, but let's assume it puts people into stretch. But actually, the more often you do them, the easier they become. And you get a big confidence boost every time you do one. So this is about, let's say presentations are in your comfort zone, because that is the case for some people. So let's say you really love giving presentations, then look for an opportunity to make it a bit more stretch. Add in an activity, add in a joke if that's appropriate, be a bit more dramatic than you might normally be. So those are examples of how you can take something which actually is in your comfort zone and make it into a stretch zone activity. And same thing with the last one with the meeting, the meeting that you might not want to go to. Again, choosing to look at it as a great opportunity to get to know other people, a great opportunity to hone your listening skills. Meetings are always a great place to do that, by the way. Not tuning out when it gets boring, just using it as an opportunity to develop and to learn. I can make a promise here that if we all just were more present at meetings and if we all just really listened more, we'd always know what to say and we'd always come up with great ideas. It's a good one. It's really about taking a situation which will stretch you. You know that you're going to develop as a result. You feel slightly scared, but not panic scared. And then finding strategies that are going to help you shine in that situation.
Okay, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll have a question from one of our listeners. So welcome back. We have a question here for Emma Sue from Tanya in the UK. She says, the company where I work is going through a lot of organizational restructure and I'm in a senior position. I'm nervous about it myself, never mind having to help my team deal with it. What are some good tips that might help?
Oh, well, they're all looking to you, aren't they, Tanya? So I think the first thing here is to be aware of and manage your own stress levels. That's really, really important. So, recognize that stress and uncertainty go hand in hand. So you need to try and minimize both as much as you can for yourself first and then for your team. Talk to them, allow them to express their fears and how they're feeling about what's happening. Give them information, keep communicating, and keep morale going as well through easy, feel-good things too. I know I do often talk about cake because I love it and I love baking it, but something as small as bringing in some cake can actually boost people's moods. So, look for opportunities to keep the energy positive. But the most important thing is to look after yourself first, and then you're going to be in a really good position to help your team.
Okay. Great advice. Thank you. I think that brings us to the end of this episode, Emma Sue.
Thank you so much for listening. And I hope that's given you lots of ideas for how you can get more into your stretch zone and become more adaptable. And I look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you for listening to the 7 Skills for the Future podcast. There are all sorts of things you can do to boost each of the 7 skills. If you want more ideas, you can buy the book, 7 Skills for the Future. You can also go online to our website, Unimentor, and join as a member, and you'll be able to access more resources, ideas, and free downloads. If you have a question you want to ask on these podcasts, get in touch. through Instagram at 7 Skills for the Future, or on Twitter and Facebook at Unimentor. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your podcast player of choice.